Hi, my name is Jacob, and today we're going to talk about communication in the workplace. And specifically, I wanted to talk about networking, upward, downward, and horizontal communication, leadership, and power. So, for networking, it's great because it can be done outside the workplace or inside the workplace. And either one, it's essentially going to be the same thing. You're trying to benefit yourself to either get to a more desired position in your job, or you're trying to get into a more desirable job for yourself. So for definition for networking, it's the action or process of meeting others to exchange information and positive influence. And this is great for personal connections or relationships that can find benefit to both parties because it's also just about getting people to know who you are. Another great aspect about networking is getting a mentor, getting somebody that can help guide and direct you in the right direction for a particular field. They're going to know more than you. They're going to have more experience than you. And why not gain knowledge from that, from somebody who's already done what you're trying to do? Now, let's talk about some communication within the companies or within organizations. So there's going to be upward, downward, and horizontal. So upward can be from all the way from the lowest employee at the company all the way trickling up to the CEO. And until you get to the top, everybody's going to have to speak upward to somebody at some point. So essentially, it's an employee speaking to a manager or a boss. Then there's downward communication, which is the exact opposite, where it could be the owner of a company, CEO, talking all the way down, but it's typically given to the managers to then talk to the coworkers and so on and so on. And then there's horizontal, which is essentially coworker to coworker, classmate to classmate, just talking to people who are at the same job level and status as you. And it's different depending on where you go, because you could be in a restaurant and a server would be a little bit higher than a busboy, and a busboy would be a little bit higher than a dishwasher. And it goes all the way up to the manager. But busboy talking to busboy, that's horizontal. Busboy talking to server, that's upward. Server talking to busboy, that's downward. And now let's talk a little bit about informal and formal communication. So formal communication and informal are both in the workplace. Typically, you'll see more formal because you're not going to be friends with everybody you work with, and you're also probably not related to anybody you work with. But there's the off chance you do start dating someone, or you do have a little bit more of a close relationship, and you will have informal talk. And that's a lot based on your similarities and being able to have compatibility and being with each other a majority of the time. I've had jobs where I worked there 10 to 12 hours a day, and those people for that time frame of me working at that job were my friends because I didn't have time outside of that to go and hang out with anybody that I had prior seen as a friend. And lastly, let's talk about leadership and power within the workplace. So there's always going to be a designated leader, with person with the title or the owner, or everybody knows who that person is. And then it trickles down to the power, so your ability to influence people. And there's essentially 4 different types of power that you'll see in the workplace. So the first one would be expert power. So your ability to know what are you an expert on. And that's typically who's going to be your manager, because they've either been there for the longest or they've been in that particular field for the longest, and they're going to have the most knowledge of what to do in that field. The second would be reward power. So essentially the person's ability to hire people and pay people. So they have the power to tell you essentially what to do because they hired you and they're going to pay you. Then there's coercive power, which is essentially done through threats and punishments. It's when you have somebody who is labeled like a mean boss that's just going to get mad at you for everything, but not even necessarily that. It could just be you messed up and that's just their way of doing it. But typically it'd be from somebody who's abusing it and trying to just show that they have more power than you. And then there's referent power, which is just respecting one another, showing that people have equal power. And it can come from your manager because they've been in that situation and they know what you're going through and they know what's going on. So they're going to show you a little bit of respect, or some more respect for that. Yeah, and that's all I have for communication in the workplace. So thank you for watching and hope you have a great day.